Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the new story. This one is called Puppies. Yautja X-Reader. Love that. So, coming back home after years away was hard. What about coming back home with an intimidating 8-foot-tall alien was even harder? You had a bad feeling at what would happen. When your friend opened the door, she would either faint or scream. As you waited for the answer, you could feel heat radiating off your mate, who was practically standing right up against your back, as if when someone opened the door, they would attack her. When she asked him to take her home, he ignored it, and he had been to Earth and would rather not go back unless he had to, but she was begging him, and he gave in when she wouldn't stop. She didn't say why she wanted to go home, but he didn't ask her. When the door opened, her best friend was smiling her wide smile when she saw you, but faltered immediately after she looked behind you. You quickly lurched forward and covered her mouth with your hand before she could scream and draw attention to the situation. Her screams were only muffled, though, but luckily it wasn't enough to draw attention. Shh. He's not gonna hurt you. You need to stop screaming so I can explain. Now, if I lift my hand, are you going to start screaming again? She shook her head violently, and you hesitantly lifted your hand, and she quickly took a few steps back to distance herself from the alien that was looking at her as if he was expected with her. So as you entered your home, your mate hesitantly only slightly before following, making sure to shut the door like you told him to earlier. Your friend still looked like she would pass out, which was not out of the question yet. Once inside, you turned to her, your hands clapped in front of your face. Tell me, has she had her babies yet? It should be time, and that she had them. Time kind of gets away from you in space. Your mate was confused. Who has had babies? Was that why you were so adamant on coming back? To see another human's babies? That thought made him grumble to himself, causing your friends to jump and take another step back before answering. She has. They're still pretty small, but she would be happy to see you again. And she's in the kitchen with them right now. It's with that, you let out of school and ran to another room, which he assumed was the kitchen. Your friend didn't move, but after waiting a few moments, he followed after you. The sight he came into the kitchen to confused him even more. The furred beast. The furred beast was practically trying to tuck you to the floor, tail wagging frantically, back and forth, obviously female, and obviously recently had pups. Was this the she you were speaking of? Why be so excited of a furred beast that wasn't human? When the furred creature saw him, she looked even more excited. He wasn't sure if it was possible, but she came bouncing in his direction and jumping up at him. It took everything he had not to attack. The yipping of the creature told him it meant no harm, though. His arms raised from his sides, not wanting to touch the creature, looking to you for guidance on how to deal with this creature. As you simply laughed at how stiff and uncomfortable he was with your baby trying to get him to pet her. He looked even more confused. Place your hand on top of her head and lightly rub it back and forth. He warningly dropped his arm and bent to rest his hand on top of the creature's head, petting her lightly as he could. This seemed to excite her more as she pushed forward against him, catching him off guard before he pushed himself away from her. He was not enjoying this experience. After you were able to get him to sit down on the kitchen floor and at least look at the cute little fluffy balls that were currently nursing on their mother, he did not want to. He didn't know what to think of the first creature, but seeing she has more of them made him feel weird. He was pulled out of his thoughts when something soft and small was placed between his legs on his lap. He stiffened and looked down in his lap. A little, wrinkly baby furred creature was laying there, wriggling closer to his body, snuggling into his body heat. He was still stiff when your dog continued to bring more of her babies and set them in his lap. His hands hadn't moved from his knees, even when all of your dog's wriggling pups were in his lap. They were so small, he was afraid to hurt them, but your dog simply yipped at him and nudged his hand, trying to get him to touch the wriggling lumps? As when he lifted his hand, he gently picked up one of the lumps. It easily fit in his palm, and it snuggled into it. He looked to you, but the smile you wore was no help to his confusion. You were happy, but he had no idea why. Neither did he understand why your dog's offspring were in his lap. But if it pleased you, he would leave it for now. That was really good. I quite enjoyed that one. I hope you did as well. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more.